Hey Denchpegs, what's going on? It's LandonRemixes here, and welcome to my review of the Sophomore album from the British duo of brothers Disclosure. This one's called Caracal, and initially this actually was one of the albums that I was the most hyped for this year, I'll admit it. That along with Cascade's Automatic, which actually released the same day, Avicii's Stories, which is coming out this week, and a few others that have been fairly scattered. Zed's wasn't actually included in that, Madian's was, but was a slight disappointment. And this might actually be the first album from the bunch of albums that I was really hyped for that actually didn't disappoint me overly. And I'll just like to get into that a little bit, but I'm just going to give some initial thoughts. This album is definitely a step up from their debut Settle. The duo decides to feature a ton of different vocalists on this one, superstar vocalists I might add, including The Weeknd, Lorde, Sam Smith, and Miguel. And a lot of these people have made huge waves in the American scene as well as the British scene. Maybe other than The Weeknd, not sure how big he is in the UK. He's probably huge for all I know, but this just superstar lineup absolutely means that all these people are on board with doing, collaborating on this really awesome record. And I'll just get into this track by track, starting right now. The album kicks off with the Weeknd collaboration called Nocturnal, and a lot of what you notice with this album is it's a lot less of the deep house style they were with. Though it's still in that, it takes it a lot slower, kicks it back, and goes into kind of like a pop electronic sound, and is also pretty experimental at points. Not really as much with this track. A lot of these tracks center around the vocalist, so it kind of sounds like it could be a Weeknd track, but in a lot of ways it definitely still retains that Disclosure style that we came to love on Settle. On the track Omen with Sam Smith, we get a giant leap of the production style from Disclosure and the way they were with Latch. Although I love Latch, this one is a huge progression forward from where they were with Latch. And like I said, they take the house sound, slow it down a lot, make it a little bassier and a little bit funkier, and it's very, very catchy. Sam Smith has obviously evolved as a vocalist as well, and it's really awesome to hear their third track together. Other than being the track Together that they did a while back, and Latch, of course. The album came out with an initial couple singles. One of them was Holding On with Gregory Porter, which is the next song on this album. Pretty catchy, mainly centers around the vocals, and kind of the production style reminds me of Stimulation from the last Disclosure album. I did like this track, although it does kind of repeat that same sound. I think it has shown that they've progressed as with the whole album rather than just this track. And there was the single Bang That, which didn't make it on the album. It is on the deluxe, though. I'd suggest you get that. I got the regular, but the deluxe has a lot of features that are very enjoyable as well. There's the track Hourglass with Lion Babe, and the first time hearing this I actually kind of hated it, honestly. Then I kind of listened to it once you analyze the actual production in it and get into it. Once you crank this, it's going to sound good. And although I don't love the vocals on this track, I think this vocal sound is a little bit overused. It ended up being pretty enjoyable and is no longer one of my least favorites. This would have booted down my rating a little bit, but then I started liking it, so luckily I didn't get my opinion of that before I got to fully analyze the track. There's the track Willing and Able, which was another single that came out before the album released as one of those free downloads if you pre-order type of deals, and this one is actually pretty enjoyable. Vocals are very soulful and altogether very enjoyable, very kind of groovy track, and just one of those ones you can really kick back and enjoy on this record. The next track is the one Magnets with Lorde, which I'm sure is one of the most hyped. I think the music video actually came out with that today as well, and one of the tracks that I was really looking forward to hearing after their performance together at the British Music Awards. I think it was. Lorde did a performance with Disclosure, which was really cool. Aluna George was there as well, and this track definitely wasn't a disappointment. The only critique I saw, I think Yori DM posted about it, said it was a bit of a disappointment because it sounded too much like a Lorde track, and that is true on some aspects, but on other aspects you can definitely hear Disclosure's sound style on this, and I'd like to see an entire album possibly produced by Disclosure featuring Lorde as the vocalist, because I think that could really be something special, and they definitely work together as a trio. There's the track Jaded, which the Disclosure boys actually sing on, like F for You did on the last album Settle. And that was also a really enjoyable one, not quite as enjoyable as the following track, Echoes, which appears later on the album. That one was a little bit lower for me. It sounded too Disclosure, although I suppose you can't really pick on someone for doing that. I think if you have this song definitely could have fit very snug in with the track list of Settle, but it seems like it was kind of just thrown in on this one to kind of balance it out and bring it back to that classic Disclosure sound. I feel like if this track was cut out and they would have put maybe Bang That on, then this album would have been a lot better, I think. And we get to Good Intentions with the fantastic vocalist Miguel. Not one of the extreme favorites of mine of the record, but definitely fairly enjoyable. There's the track Superego, which I think takes a little bit more of a hip-hop sound, but has an Aluna George type vocalist on this one. Maybe, perhaps, because Aluna George has been so busy with other stuff. I refer to it as like a singular person. I just mean Aluna from Aluna George when I say that. Sorry about the confusion there. And this was also one of my favorites, Superego. Just a really catchy, groovy kind of... You just kind of can flow with it, and definitely one of those ones that are really enjoyable, like I said, have kind of a hip-hop sound. And finally, they leave us off with the, I guess I could say masterpiece, song called Masterpiece. And although this definitely wasn't one of my top picks from the album, it takes a little bit a slower vibe, and kind of sombers out toward the end, which makes a very good closer. And the closure for Disclosure was actually a fairly solid track. Like I said, wasn't one of my favorites. This album's definitely a solid one. The only track I really didn't like on this one was actually Echoes, which had no features. And I think with this album, they definitely went the right direction, centered around all the different artists they happened to feature on this. And definitely one of my favorites of the year. So I'm going to give this one a solid 9. I was actually debating giving it an 8.5, and then when I started kind of liking Hourglass a little bit more, then I decided definitely a 9 would have been a solid choice, considering the 11 track, and I didn't like one of them, so maybe take off a point. A couple other small picks with the record, and other than that, this one is a very solid one. Definitely go out and buy it, support the duo, just get into this style, because this is something that's going to be huge, and Disclosure's made it into their own sound, kind of taken the deep house scene by storm, and have interjected their own style into it, making it kind of their own genre, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do in the future. So like I said, 9.0. Make sure to get this. I'm LandonRemixes, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.